Good afternoon, members of the media. Thank you very much for making the time to this press conference. I know it was called at short notice, but I do have a short but important message that I'd like to put out in terms of our response to what's been widely reported this morning as a protest that took place on East Broadway. So we know that at around 6:30 this morning, approximately 30 people gathered near the junction of East Broadway and Lane Hill, and they commenced a protest there. Police officers arrived shortly after that, and they were immediately concerned that the protesters had blocked both lanes entering the city of Hamilton. So they spoke with the organizers and they urged them to move to the safety of the sidewalk and also to allow for the free flow of traffic. Now, the protesters did not cooperate with the instructions from the police. And the police resorted to directing traffic around them for their own safety. The police continued the effort to move the protesters to the safety of the sidewalk right up until about 8:15 this morning, when the persons eventually moved themselves out of the road. The police then worked to relieve several traffic jams that had occurred, and eventually traffic flow resumed normally sometime after 9 o'clock this morning. So certainly, first of all, I'd like to apologize for the significant inconvenience that was caused to many road users this morning, and invariably many people were made late for work or for appointments due to the incident. But I'd also like to thank many members of the public who exercised extreme patience, and they supported the efforts of the police who were trying to navigate through this spontaneous event. I'd also like to remind the public that last month we circulated some advice on the correct procedure to follow to obtain permission for a public procession under the Public Order Act. Any protest that takes place in a public street must have a permit issued from the Deputy Governor's office, and all and any directions given by the police must be complied with. That does not appear to be the case this morning, and some of the behaviors demonstrated may constitute the offenses of unlawful assembly or obstruction. Accordingly, we are preparing a file for submission to the Director of Public Prosecutions to decide whether any charges should be laid. Now, let me just say, the Bermuda Police Service is very alive to the issues that are being passionately discussed throughout the community. We respect and we uphold the constitutional rights of everyone to free speech and to gather and to peacefully protest. But we also remind protesters and organizers that their actions must be lawful and they must not intrude on the rights of other people. The protests this morning caused significant and unnecessary disruption to the free movements of the general public, and it placed the police in the untenable position of being caught in the middle. Whether a protest is about pathways to status, same-sex marriage, or furlough days, the police do not hold any views on the merits of the debate. Our job is not to take a position on the issue. Our mandate is to maintain peace and good order and facilitate the exercise of democratic rights to protest peacefully and lawfully. And where we must intervene, our policy is always to use the least intrusive and coercive law enforcement measures possible to resolve the conflict. It does no community any good for the police to use heavy-handed tactics to address protesters over issues that are already emotionally charged to begin with. This is, of course, the reason why there are laws that govern protests, and that is why the public must follow the rules, so that the police are not caught in the middle of protesters who have a right to protest and other members of the public who have the right to move about freely. These rules are in place to keep both protesters and members of the public safe. I encourage anyone who is organizing any other similar activity to contact our operational planning officer at Hamilton Police Station, where we will be happy to assist with planning and, where necessary, permits in order to avoid the potential of running afoul with the law. Thank you. I don't want to get into specific cases or specific people while inquiries are still ongoing. I think the point that we're certainly trying to make today is there's already a framework that establishes the right way to go about peaceful protest, and after the events this morning, coupled with some of the events of the last few days, I'm moved to address the country and remind them that they must follow those rules. And it would be extremely helpful if anyone who's planning future events can stick to the requirements of the Public Order Act, where it's required, because not every protest requires a permit, but certainly involve the police. The whole point is that we're here to help facilitate peaceful protest. We don't want people in the middle of the street being run over by traffic. We don't want disruption to other people who are trying to get about with their busy lives. And our job is to help the process. But if you don't involve us, then A, it complicates the issue, and B, it quite possibly may constitute an offense that we have to report to the director. So that's the message we're trying to leave the community with today. Anyone that knows me knows that I never commit to a future position, okay? Because you just don't know what will happen on the day, and every case has to be judged on its own merits. So, you know, I won't say we will do this or we won't do that. Our policies are quite straightforward. We use the least coercive law enforcement measures possible. We're not trying to incite, we're not trying to provoke, we're not trying to inflame. What we want to make sure is that everything is done peacefully and in accordance with the law. The significance about the event today is the amount of disruption that it caused to the rest of the community. And it's just caused us a moment of pause to think, you know, we can't justify that. We can't expect the rest of the community to be inconvenienced like that if all the other lawful measures haven't been taken. What those measures are, I don't know, but that's the appeal today, is let's not have a repeat of this. Let's be clear, the police do not decide on prosecutions. In every case, this case and every other case of complaint that we deal with, the decision maker is the Director of Public Prosecutions. Our job is to collect the information, put it in a file and hand it over, and then the DPP's office makes a decision on who to prosecute and whether to prosecute. So it's important to keep those two things separate. What we will do is we will continue to police these events, make ourselves available to work with the organizers so that we can have a lawful and a peaceful event. And certainly where conscious decisions are made not to follow the law, then we really have no choice but to investigate it and report the matter.